office that's just about completed now. So we're rocking and rolling here at the Falk abode. I appreciate you guys for tuning in once again. New Talkin Dawgs. I think the last time we met, I was at 247 Sports. And a lot of stuff has happened since then. I'm no longer at 247 after nearly 10 years there. For my explanation of why I left and all that stuff, I do have a video on YouTube you guys can go watch announcing my new endeavor, which is at On3 Sports. Really excited about what we're doing over there, Maroon and White Daily, a site that's been in the works now for well over a year. Paul Jones and myself have been talking about this for a long time. We obviously finished out our contracts, did everything that we were supposed to do at 247 before doing anything with On3, but a lot of work put in behind the scenes for this site to become what it is, and we're trending in a really nice direction. Paul's been there, I think, since October, maybe. I think he's been there by himself, and I just joined on New Year's night. So during that time frame, we've had a huge spike, I guess, and subscriptions. We're really excited about what we're doing there. Our Twitter account, and we got started, has picked up over 1,000 followers in about a week. And we got a lot of traction going, a lot of great things going over there at Maroon and White Daily. So make sure you guys are over there. If you're not subscribed, we have a $1 deal for the first month. You guys can join for just $1 for that first month that you're on. And then after that, I think it's $9.99. But it's well worth the price of admission. Paul provides the best recruiting information out there, in my opinion, at any site. I don't think there's anybody that puts in the amount of work that he does on a day-to-day basis, especially covering Mississippi State recruiting. I mean, the guy's an absolute machine, and you guys want to be, in the know, and he's the guy to do it. So we have those daily dog biscuits that he's been doing for years. You guys can go check that out. Monday through Thursday, I think he does those. And, we have, of course, men's and women's basketball covered. We're going to be covering baseball, obviously, and, also football covered. So if you're a Mississippi State fan, you need to be at Maroon and White Daily, so come check us out. All right, enough of that. We're here to talk about Mississippi State sports, and this is Talkin Dawgs. Been a couple of weeks, but I'm excited to get back on here with you guys, and I want to remind you, if you do want to get in any questions or comments, you're free to do so. We'll take any questions or whatever. If not, we'll talk about Mississippi State sports. We're going to talk Mississippi State sports no matter what. We got several things to discuss. Men's basketball and women's basketball started SEC play, and not so good start for either one of those teams, and we'll kind of dive into that. The men began on the road at South Carolina, and this isn't the South Carolina team that Mississippi State played last year. It was one of, if not the worst teams in the league last season. They won 11 or 12 games. And this year's team, their only loss at this point was to a top 20 Clemson team on the road, I think, and it was a fairly competitive game. Lamont Paris did a good job going out and getting some transfer portal players that can help this team go from that bottom of the SEC to competitive, at least in the middle of the pack, I think, this year. And they're off to a great start. They're very tough to beat at home. They played really hard in that ball game against Mississippi State. I thought State did as well for most of the game, especially in the first half. I thought State defensively was exceptional most of the way, but they weren't able to really cash in on what was kind of a tough start for South Carolina. State had held them to like 3 points in nearly 10 minutes and one field goal. And they just weren't able to really build that lead like they needed to build it. South Carolina got back in it, eventually took the lead at halftime, 30 to 28, and State started the second half fairly poor. Foul trouble really got Mississippi State in this game. Tolu Smith was in foul trouble for most of the way. He picked up 2 big fouls in the second half in one possession. And it really boiled down to Mississippi State not rebounding. And that happened in that possession too. There were several opportunities for South Carolina to score because they were getting offensive rebounds. Tolu Smith fouled twice. He fouled on a shot. They got 2 free throws. I think they missed the second one, got the offensive rebound. Then he fouled on a 3-pointer, and they got 3 free throws out of that. It was like a 6-point swing there in like 2 or 3 possessions that really changed the game. State got it to 2 points, and they had a chance to tie or take the lead on the last couple of possessions, turned the ball over. So it was a game where State just didn't execute. They had 13 turnovers, which isn't excessive, but that's not going to help you on the road. And then the offensive rebounds were just ridiculous. 15 offensive rebounds for South Carolina, and had 16 second chance points. At one point, they'd outscored State 16-2. It ended up being 16-6 because Josh Hubbard had a 4-point play on a second chance possession there late in the game that got State back in it. But you can't do that. You can't lose those second chance points by 10 points or really by 14 when South Carolina kind of pushed the game out. So it was just it was a poor job by State from an execution standpoint. And it's a really frustrating loss for Mississippi State because this was a quad one opportunity, a chance to kind of make right that Southern loss that they had. I don't think it would have completely erased it, but it helps build your resume. State doesn't have much of a resume right now. Northwestern seems to be a solid win. I just don't know what else is, really blowing the doors off when you look at this resume. They're 11-3, they're 0-1 in the conference. They've got to pick up some SEC wins. The good news is they have a chance to get 2 really big wins here this week at home. They're playing Tennessee and Alabama. Tennessee, number 5 in the country. They just whipped Ole Miss at home. And then Alabama's receiving votes. They're probably a top 30, 35 team. So that would be a good win as well. Tennessee would be a quad one for Mississippi State. And to me, it's vital for them to find a way to win one of these games. They have got to start building a resume. If they lose these 2 games, they're 0-3 in conference play with a trip to Kentucky coming up. Possibility of 0-4 start. I just don't know where State goes from there. So this is a huge week for them, and they haven't won games like this in a while. A top 5 Tennessee team beating Alabama at home. This isn't an Alabama team from last year, but it's still a well-coached basketball team that's talented. So that's huge. And can they get that? I don't know. They need one of those, I think. It's hard to expect them to beat a top 5 team at home because we just haven't seen that in years. But you need to win one of these games. I think Alabama is the feasible win, but we just don't know if they're going to be able to get it. 6 p.m. on Wednesday night against Tennessee. 7:30 on Saturday against Alabama. So State has 2 huge opportunities, 3 in a row. They have 3 big-time opportunities right here, and you need to come out of this with 1 win. 1-4 is not a great start, but it's hard to expect 2-3 wins out of this when you're playing a top 5 team in Tennessee. Kentucky's starting to kind of come along. It's just tough to expect it. So, it's a big one. Women, same thing. This is a huge week for them. You started off 0-2. You blew a chance against Vanderbilt. You probably weren't going to beat South Carolina. They were in that ball game for a good portion, but they lost by 19 on the road against number 1. Vanderbilt was the one that got away. Vanderbilt was a winnable ball game. They need to win games like that if you're competing in the top half of the league. Vanderbilt's a much better team. I think they have the potential to be a top 25 team. But you still should win this game. It's at home. You have an experienced team, at least, with Jacayla Jordan and Jessica Carter. And then the transfers have played a lot of basketball. They haven't played here, but they've played a lot of basketball in college. You should win that game. They lost 71-66, let that one slip away. So now you're banking on here in the next 3 games, and I guess you could extend that out to Florida, who's been solid this year. You know, Liam Athoru, former Mississippi State players on that team. You got LSU at home coming up on the 29th. Oof. It's not going to be easy. Tennessee, who's been playing really well the last couple of weeks since Rakia Jackson has gotten back. It's going to be tough. Arkansas on the road this week, 8 p.m. tip on Thursday. They just beat Georgia, I think it was Georgia, by 40 on Sunday. Ole Miss doesn't look as good as they were last year, but it's still a good team. They play defense as good as anybody. They have a couple of pieces on offense that can go. So that's not going to be easy. This team's staring down 0-4 just like the boys. So this is a very pivotal week for Mississippi State basketball, and they've got to find a way to do something this week. Or you're looking at fans starting to try to scramble to look towards the next sport, which hasn't been promising either with baseball. So I don't know what to expect this week, but it's big for both teams. Moving over, transitioning to recruiting, and you guys want to get some questions in, we'll talk more about basketball, don't worry. But Mississippi State, last time we were here, they were closing in or signing. I think they had already signed. I forget last time we did this. I think they'd already signed that first signing period, but we've had a lot of action since then. The big one was Stonka Burnside. We had discussed a little bit about that recruitment and what to expect, and Stonka did choose Mississippi State over Ole Miss in the Under Armour All-American game. Big pickup for Mississippi State, obviously. I've covered Stonka since his 8th grade year when he was in junior high at Starkville. He was starting for the Yellow Jackets as a freshman at safety, and I thought was exceptional his freshman year. You could really see him kind of jump off the tape when you watched him. Moved over to the offensive side of the ball and has been fantastic. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons for Stonka in Class 6A and then 7A. Helped the team to a 7A state championship appearance this year. They won the title last year in 6A. I think he's a guy that can immediately help you, and expected to enroll next week at Mississippi State. So he's enrolling early. That's huge for the Bulldogs to have a guy come in, learn the system with Jeff Lebby, and start to get his footing a little bit. I think he can help Mississippi State this year. Performed really well at times. Didn't have the big catches in the Under Armour game. They couldn't really get him the ball as much with what I think the defensive end that's going to South Carolina. I think I forget his name, but he knocked down a couple of passes that were going towards Stonka. But did see a huge game from Mississippi State quarterback signee Michael Van Buren. 137 yards in the game, threw a touchdown, caught a 2-point conversion, threw another 2-point conversion. He was the MVP of the game, and you could really see some special attributes about him in that ball game that really kind of stood out. And he's also enrolling early. That's a huge for Mississippi State to get him ingrained in that system. I think a perfect fit for what Jeff Lebby wants to do, and he feels like the future there at quarterback. Looking at some other decisions that were made since the last time that we talked. I'm trying to make sure we got them. Brylan Lanier, defensive back from EMCC, committed to Mississippi State early in the process, took official visits to Georgia, I think NC State maybe. So he had the attention of some really good programs. Ends up at Mississippi State, former Alabama player, had a really good season this year at EMCC, helped them to a national title with what he did on the defensive side of the ball. I think he's set up to play nickel for Mississippi State. Hard-hitting guy, really athletic. I think he adds a good piece to this defense next year for the Bulldogs. He should be able to compete right away. Again, another early enrollee that should help. Kevin Coleman coming in from Louisville. Some people might remember, if you followed Jackson State a little bit when Deion Sanders was there, he was a 4-star kid that picked Jackson State coming out of high school. A lot of schools wanted him. Electric playmaker coming out of St. Louis, Missouri. did some really big things right away for Deion Sanders, and was a freshman of the year in the SWAC. Transfers to Louisville after Deion leaves. Last year, over 300 yards receiving in an offense that really wasn't setting the world on fire. He's electric as a special teams guy. I think a guy that can come in and replace some things that you lost with a Tolu Smith or Xavier Thomas. I really like this pickup. Really adds a dynamic piece of that wide receiver group that's trying to be retooled a little bit for Jeff Lebby. Chad Bumpus has done a good job in this class doing that. And I like this guy a lot. Stone Blanton, everybody remembers him from MRA, was a Mississippi State baseball commitment, and looked like all signs were pointing to him playing baseball and football at Mississippi State and choosing the Bulldogs over Ole Miss. South Carolina was kind of an afterthought in that recruitment, and they end up landing him. The last 2 years he's played there, played in 24 games with the Gamecocks, started all 12 games this year for them, was actually a captain on the defense. I think he had 52 tackles, had a pick 6 last year. I think just a good ad for Mississippi State when you're losing the top 2 tacklers in the league the last 2 seasons in Jet Johnson and Buki Watson. Adding a guy that's got experience in this league is big. You know, a lot of people have wondered what his potential is at Mississippi State. I don't know if this is an all-SEC guy, but I think he helps you. I don't think he hurts your defense at all. It's hard to say that somebody that was a starter in the SEC hurts you. So, you know, I look at him as a guy that's going to help Mississippi State defensively, and they need it. They've lost a lot of players. They haven't had a tremendous transfer portal haul, so I think that was big to get him on board. And then finally, today, Wilkie Deneau, I think is how you pronounce it. I could be wrong on that. But he commits, a former Auburn defensive lineman. He was another guy that was a 4-star coming out of high school. This year, he redshirted at Auburn, so didn't get a chance to see him play this year to really know what they're getting. But I think they're getting a guy with a fairly high ceiling. You know, I wonder if he would have played some this year had he not gotten in trouble, because he got in trouble early on in the season, was arrested for larceny, I think. He took a scooter that, you know, got him arrested, got him into some hot water, but everything else seems to checked off for him. Doesn't seem to be any like massive red flags with him outside of that. But you know, we'll see. I mean, another defensive lineman that State pulled in that just hasn't proven anything yet. And that's the question mark for State's defensive line coming in this year, is they just don't have a lot of guys that have, you know, proven a whole lot. Even the guys that have played multiple years in the Power 5, Kedrick Bingley-Jones and the kid from Purdue, they just haven't really done a whole lot. They've been, you know, backups. So, and it looks like Mississippi State just lost out on the defensive lineman, Michael Nakacha, the junior college guy. I mean, it has not been an impressive haul for David Turner. I got a lot of question marks with what they're doing there. They're missing out on names. They're bringing in backups. It's just doesn't look great. So you're kind of counting on guys that are already here that haven't proven anything, and that's a scary thought for Mississippi State defensively. So my thought is better hope for an offense that's going to put up some big-time numbers. All right, so I think I've talked enough. I've talked about 20 minutes now, so we'll start taking a few questions and comments if you guys got them coming in. Jesse, do you think Tolu starts from now on out? He should. I don't think he should have been benched. Well, not benched, but coming off the bench to start SEC play. I get it for the Bowling Green game, but yeah, he should have a lot of that rust knocked off by now. He definitely needs to start on Wednesday, I think. I mean, it's time to make him the centerpiece there. Also, Hubbard needs more playing time. Surprised Fort did not play against USC. Yeah, he does. I mean, Hubbard, you got to get a scoring option in there. State's just doesn't have a lot of production from its guards right now from a scoring standpoint, especially shooting the three ball. So yeah, I mean it's a must to get him some more minutes. I think he's averaging 14 points a game. He's dynamic. He hit that big 4-point play. Now he got 23 minutes. So that's not terrible the other day, and scored 13 points. But yeah, I mean he definitely needs to be kind of like Totally needs to be kind of a centerpiece because they just don't have a lot of options there. And hopefully Fort kind of comes back into the fold here because that's a guy that shoots it unlike a lot of players. Him and Hubbard can really fill it up. Redacted triple X. And this gets dirtier and dirtier every week. What do you know about the redshirt freshman defensive lineman coming in? Yeah, I talked about him a little bit while ago. I just don't know. I mean, he hasn't done anything yet. It's hard to count on these guys coming in when you just haven't seen much from them. And this guy, I mean, obviously, I like the high upside better from a guy like Wilkie because, he was a four-star coming out of high school. He's just been in college for 1 year, so he's got 4 years left. And a lot of guys redshirt, so that doesn't really tell me one thing or another about his abilities. It's the guys that were second and third string guys at other schools that didn't do anything in the Power Five that kind of worry me a little bit. But he's an intriguing player. He's a big kid. He's athletic. I think he can help you out. And he should be, that should be a guy that you should be ready to put on the field this year. He's a redshirt freshman. He should be getting some reps. Alan McBrayer happy about Turner closing the deal. Yeah, I wish he could have got the JUCO guy. I think that guy would have helped. But they couldn't seal him up in the summer. They got him in on official last week. I don't know what's going on with the defense. It baffles me. Bryce Hall, serious question. Will any MSU sports live up to preseason expectations? It happens every now and then. Right now, State is in a rut. And we see these periods every now and then where, it's just not a good stretch. And that's kind of where they are right now. Baseball has been struggling the last 2 years. Basketball went to the NCAA tournament. So, things aren't just terrible in basketball, but it's supposed to be a much better year this year. And it doesn't seem like things are trending that direction. Football was bad this year and looks like they're kind of in a rebuild mode. So, things just aren't great. Now, some of the other sports, soccer had a great year. I think golf, men's and women's golf was really good this year. Those sports have been solid, but that's not what the spotlight is on. That's not what fans are really watching. The big sports, the big three sports, they need a win. They really do. They need some good things to happen. Elvis Dog, Jessica didn't get any points after the first quarter against Vandy. Do you think with some of our bigs hurt is affecting her play? Yeah, I mean, she has not played well first 2 games. There's no doubt about it. She had a good stretch there to end non-conference. The last 2 games, she had 6 points against Vandy, I think 8 yesterday. And she's always kind of struggled against South Carolina, so that wasn't really a big surprise. I mean, it just seems like she struggles a little bit with the, elite big players. But, Vanderbilt, she should have had a better game. And she did have 12 rebounds. She did work, but she just they couldn't get the ball to her. She didn't have a whole lot of opportunities. And then Aaron Barnum really struggled. I don't know what to make of her. She scored like 5 points in the first 2 games. You're just not getting a lot of production from her. It's almost like State needs to go smaller with her, I think. I don't know what's happening with her, but they've got to get her going because she's an all-SEC power forward. Elvis Dog, baseball has to make 5 or 6 more cuts. Was there a need for another catcher? Yeah, that was, kind of strange. They got a transfer in here late. I don't, obviously Chris Lamonis knows something there that we don't. There could be some issues. There could be an injury. I don't know. I haven't heard of anything like that, but there's a reason he brought that guy in, and I don't know what that is right now. We'll find out in a few weeks whenever we start to really kind of dig into practice and all that stuff. But yeah, they got to start cutting some guys here. The numbers are still pretty high. Excuse me. Elvis, will we still be looking for cornerbacks in the portal after the spring? Yeah, they got to have some. They got to have, to me, 2 corners, probably another safety. The safety position is baffling. I don't know what's happening there. They've had a lot of guys on the board, guys that have come in for visits, guys that have been expected to take visits, and they just haven't got them. The defense is just kind of a mess. The transfer portal defensive recruiting right now has just been strange, from evaluations to the takes that they've had to the guys that they've missed on. It's just been strange what's been going on. I don't know how to explain it. Wesley, what's going on, man? Feels like a page from Kiffin's playbook from early seasons with Ole Miss. If you can't land high caliber defensive guys, go load up on offense. Yeah, I thought the same thing, man. I think that at this point, it looks like that's what they've kind of been doing with these wide receivers. It doesn't look like you're going to get a lot of difference makers on the defensive side of the ball this year. It's kind of like you just cut your bait and move on. That's what it kind of feels like at this point. So go get some good offensive guys and try to get you an offense that can compete. Get an offense that can score 35 plus, that can get into some shootouts, that can win some of those battles. It's going to bring some excitement. And let's be honest, we talked about this the last couple of days on Thunder and Lightning. The teams that are really good offensively can get away with that and still win ball games and get away with having a bad defense. Ole Miss's defense was not great this year. A couple of years ago, they were like 90th, I think, or something like that. Like, having a bad defense doesn't automatically make you a bad team. The game has changed, and just giving up a bunch of yards and maybe even a bunch of points doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to go to a bowl game next year or whatever. Having elite offenses at this point is the key. And I think, obviously eventually you want to have a defense that's, top 25, that's able to go well with that offense and hold other teams down to make you a team that's competing for championships. Mississippi State's not going to compete for a championship next year. Let's just be honest. There's a team that you're trying to get to bowl eligibility, to get back into that postseason play, to show promise to recruits, to have something to build on for Jeff Lebby's first year. That's your goal at this point. And the defense is not going to get you there. It's going to be what you do on the offensive side of the ball. And that's what you hired Jeff Lebby for anyway. I think, Coleman Hutzler is a guy that might be known by some players out there, but he's never coached a defense. He was a co-defense coordinator at Texas. I don't know how much, he called the defense. I really don't. So he hasn't been known for what he's done on the defensive side of the ball. He was a good special teams coach. He's coached some outside linebackers, but he hasn't been a defensive coordinator. This staff is fairly unproven. You have David Turner, who's done a lot, but outside of that, it's just not a staff a lot of players know, and I don't know if players really trust the staff right now. So they're losing a lot of recruiting battles with players, but with a year's time to kind of build relationships, we'll see what they're able to do. Bryce, did you win any fantasy leagues? I didn't. I had the best team in the league in one of my leagues, and I had one bad weekend. I had a couple of injuries, and I was done in the first round. It was upsetting. The other leagues, I finished, middle of the pack to bottom. I had 2 other leagues I was in, and it just happens that way sometimes. Sometimes you just have a couple of bad or mediocre teams. That was me this year. And then my other team was great all season, and very end really struggled. So, that was upsetting as well. Dirty 809, 808. Lady Dogs fought, but just wasn't big enough to keep South Carolina off the boards. Yep, that was a big problem for them. Jess and Barnum not doing good enough in SEC play. Jess not posting enough and too many jumpers. Yeah, she settles for those a lot against teams that have, somebody that can counter in the post. I think that's why Vic Schaefer wanted to make her a 4 when he was here. I don't know if she's a 4, but she's kind of like a tweener there. Like she's not a play. She likes to kind of step back and shoot some shots, shoot some fadeaways, mid-range jumpers and stuff. And she's not a player that's going to really, put her back to the basket and, have some good post moves and really dominate in the post against teams that can kind of counter that defensively. Who wins tonight, Michigan or Washington? Jesse. I think it's going to be Michigan. I just think that they got the better overall team and their defense is really good. They got one of the best running backs in the country. They got a quarterback that's super experienced. I would love to see Washington win it. I would love to see Dylan Johnson get a ring. Good kid. But I think it's going to be Michigan. Then again, I thought Washington might lose to Texas. So who knows? They've been kind of defying odds all year. A lot of people thought they would lose to Oregon in the regular season. A lot of people thought they would lose in the Pac-12 championship. It just felt like eventually they were going to drop out, and they never did. They just kept winning. They got a great quarterback. They got dynamic receivers. Dylan Johnson's been excellent. But I think I'm going to go with Michigan. Dirty, we played great defense against South Carolina in the men's game that first half, and we trailed by 2. When will Jans understand that we need to play more offensive players? I just think this is going to be his philosophy. He's going to play the guys that are playing defense. But, you got a point. I remember thinking at halftime, my gosh, State just played an unreal half and defensively, and they're losing. Those first 10 minutes were unbelievable. I think they gave up 6 points in 10 minutes, and South Carolina hit a 3 there right before the 10-minute mark to give them that 6th point, and they still were losing the game at the half. You got to be able to score points, and just expecting to hold teams to under 70 and win is tough. But we'll see. Sven, how you doing, buddy? Over in Germany, I believe. Rough weekend for our hoops teams and hard schedule is rolling in. Do you think we can still make March Madness with both teams? Gonna be tough. It's gonna be really tough, but they got to start winning games. They can. They can make March Madness, but it's gonna come down to winning games, and for the women, 9, 10 games in the SEC probably. For the men, 10 or 11, I would think. We'll see. But they got to pick up some wins. They got to build a resume. Neither one of them have a super impressive resume at this point. Elvis, rumors Tolu and Bell could be on the court at the same time. Do you think that could happen? It's possible, I guess. I just don't think it's really smart. I don't think that a lot of teams can get away with 2 bigs at the same time like it used to be. I think the game's changed too much. Teams have gone more to that stretch 4, and it's going to be tough for those guys to defend the perimeter when a lot of times you have 4 players that can step out and shoot 3-point shots. And for State, they're constantly trying to defend the perimeter, and that's one thing they're very good at is closing out on the perimeter and 3-point shots, switching. I thought that they were really good at that against South Carolina, switching on their men and making it difficult every time somebody passed the ball. I just don't know how good they would be at all that with 2 bigs. But who knows? I mean, they could try it out, I guess. Phone's dying out on me. Dirty's got Michigan 34, Washington 31. Wow, a shootout. That'd be fun. I'm gonna say Michigan 27, Washington 21, I think. I'm hoping. I just want a good game. Last year was awful. I was really excited for that game, Georgia and TCU. I knew Georgia was going to win and should like handle them, but being what it was, I don't want that again. All right, any more questions? Get them in while you can. Questions or comments? Again, you had 3 games this week at the hump for Mississippi State. The men have Tennessee and Bama Wednesday and Saturday. The women play against Ole Miss on Sunday. So keep that in mind if you're going to be coming to the hump this week. All right, we will shut it off there. Good talk. Good talk. Appreciate you guys. Again, don't forget to come check us out at On3. I'd appreciate it. We got that $1 deal, and we got a lot of news coming out, so come check us out. Check out Thunder and Lightning podcast. If you don't listen to that, what are you doing? And anything else? I think that's pretty much it. I appreciate it. So we'll probably get back on here Sunday. It won't be a YouTube live, but I'll record something Sunday, kind of recapping the week for basketball from the hump probably. So be on the lookout for that. Other than that, next Monday we'll probably be back on here for some more Mississippi State sports talk. So appreciate you guys. Hope you have a great day. Catch you down the road.